All right, so quick market update, nothing too crazy. Sitting here waiting for Bitcoin to break out. Everything's looking pretty solid, as I've mentioned. We've remained bullish throughout this entire consolidation at a macro level. When we recovered 59K, that was our key level to add back into the market and be bullish on a reclaim after this deviation. We've since just seen really solid market structure crossed through our midpoint, consolidated above it in a, call it a symmetric triangle, whatever consolidation pattern. Now we're breaking out, jamming up into the top of our range here. So the top of our range is roughly 71.5 or so. That's currently where Bitcoin's at. Continuing to see some kind of on the shorter term time frames, expanding volatility or a broadening pattern, if you will. This is generally bullish. It's generally bullish, especially if RSI is kind of resetting down to the mid levels here on some of the shorter time frames. So I remain bullish. We're continuing to move in an attempt to break out of the top of this range without seeing huge corrections and rejections away from it. Obviously, if we see one of those large rejections, then we need to reassess, right? But as long as we're kind of coiling up under resistance here, I do think it's fairly likely that we see a breakout in the possibly today, but possibly in the next week. Who knows? But it's hard to be bearish here. What I will say, this is the point at which shorts have the best risk reward. So you do have some shorters in the market probably taking this trade. Range traders, you're getting 4 to 1. If you expect a retest to the bottom of the range, to the mid range, you're getting 2 to 1 roughly if you're keeping your stop loss protected by the all-time highs, give or take. Obviously you could adjust those numbers a little bit, but I don't think this is a great, yes, from a number standpoint, looking at the just a move from the top of the range to the bottom of the range, technically yes, you've got good risk reward to short. But if you look at actual momentum in market structure in the series of higher lows and just the way that this isn't the first touch, right? This is a second touch and now a third touch on this resistance level. We've already come down and consolidated right above our midpoint. It doesn't make sense from a likelihood perspective in terms of risk reward or expected value, right? Like you have to factor into risk reward. You also have to factor in the perceived likelihood of success, right? And on a first touch after a full rotation back up to the top of the range, yeah, your perceived likelihood of success and getting a pullback for shorts is pretty high, right? But after we've consolidated and broken out of a bullish pattern and we're testing this, seeing the expanding volatility, I would say the EV on shorts here is probably pretty poor, despite the technical risk reward still being fairly decent. So that's my take on Bitcoin. I think a breakout is somewhat imminent. Again, if we see a breakdown here and we move down to our midpoint and lose this longer term trend, longer term, but going back to, it's pretty long term, going back to January, we lose this big trend line and we start trading down here around 60, that's bearish and we've got to reassess. But until that happens, I see no reason to be bearish. BNB looking really solid, continuing to hold this long position. I think this can continue to move upwards, starting to consolidate up here. I will say this morning's little breakout or attempt at a breakout did print a little bit of bearish divergence, not confirmed yet on the 4-hour, but appearing to be confirmed on the 1-hour. I'm not too concerned about this because I do think we are in a bigger type move out of Bitcoin and for BNB. So I'm not too concerned about a little bit of short-term bearish divergence. Again, if we come all the way back down, do the full retrace, and we start trading below our entry point down here, we'll cut the trade. But I think fortune favors the bulls here on a lot of situations. We continue to review Dogecoin. It's been choppy. It's been consolidating. It's not been the highest performing market here recently, but you do see that it is loading up a below our range. The 16 to 17.5 cent range is something that I've talked about at length. And I do believe if we can get through this diagonal, if we can get through 17.5 cents and make a new high here, that we zip straight, pretty violently straight to around 30, 35 cents. Could I be wrong? Yeah, absolutely. But for me, Dogecoin, it's kind of twofold. It's like a Bitcoin beta play. Usually it performs really well when Bitcoin makes all-time highs. And then obviously you've kind of got the meme coin narrative going on, meme coin super cycle narrative, which plays into this. And then personally, I believe that the most likely next set of ETFs to be filed for are Dogecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. That is based on Coinbase futures trading being listing all three of those. There's only Bitcoin and ETH on CME, and on Coinbase futures, there are only Bitcoin, ETH, and then they recently listed Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. And we know that futures contracts, futures markets are kind of a prerequisite for a spot ETF filing. So that's Dogecoin. Let's go to the S&P 500, flat on the day, but overall, like we said, I mean, pretty bullish when we start moving through into above our previous highs. Looking like it's running into a little bit of diagonal resistance here. What we don't want to see is like an ascending wedge form here, and then we take a trip back down and start breaking down. Again, my line in the sand for the S&P 500 to be bearish, or at least more cautious on risk, is a breakdown below this. Right now, we're looking fine. DXY, we talked about a potential retest. We've gotten that retest and we've been rejected from it. That's great. We've been rejected. We broke down, and what did we say? We said oftentimes, right, after you break down, you come back up to retest the point at which you crossed over. Now, I don't have this trend line perfect, but and it's never, the retest is never going to be absolutely perfect, but we got rejected from that region, and we are consolidating here. What I want to see is another leg down. I want to see us take out 104 and start trading down below 104. Beyond that, is there anything interesting here? GameStop is probably one of the more interesting charts right now. Seems to have quite a bit of momentum here on the 15-minute chart over the last 2 days. We seem to have bottomed out at 26, and we're steadily creeping upwards. This does look quite... I mean, obviously, there's a lot going on here, so it's difficult to predict. A lot of people claiming market manipulation from shorts, a lot of people claiming market manipulation from Roaring Kitty, whatever. This does, on the 15-minute, look pretty conducive, pretty bullish to me. I would love to see this squeeze back up above the 40s, but again, it's GameStop. It's gonna be volatile. It's gonna be tough to do TA on this and have a strong feeling in one way or the other. I feel like it's much more of a fundamental trade. You're betting on the shorts getting squeezed out. Aside from that, just seeing if we've got any big movers here. XMR is actually very interesting. XMR it's not super available on a lot of exchanges, but it has been silently just looking really solid, up 54% from its recent low. This is on the weekly chart. If we go to the 4-hour chart, you can see this thing has just been slow and steady. I don't really have a thesis for Monero, but I think it's worth having on people's watch lists. It's historically been a pretty poor performer, but back above 180, 175, 180, all of a sudden this becomes quite an interesting chart, and there's potential upside to 500 based on the last two highs. So definitely one worth paying attention to, a little bit harder and less available to trade. JASMY is really running. JASMY hit our targets, right? We posted this in the Cysteine Research Discord. Breaking, I personally sold too early. I sold at the top of the range. Is what it is. A little bit too conservative on my part, but a lot of people in the Discord still riding this trade. We have our descending wedge here into the bottom of our range and then breaking out. That was our long trigger. Our first target, or one of our targets, was 0.04. We do have another target up here at 0.05. I was conservative. I sold the top of the range. Is what it is. Sometimes you sell too soon. But if you want to join our Discord, head over to Cysteine.ai. There is a link in the description. Also, we send out these videos via email, as well as consolidated summaries with text. For those who may not have time to watch a full video. We do that via email, for which there is a link in the description below. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Twitter, I just post those notes below in a tweet. Last but certainly not least, if you are looking to trade on leverage, This video is sponsored by RabbitX, which is a best-in-class decentralized derivatives platform that I personally like a lot. There is a link in the description below if you are watching this on YouTube. Guys, till tomorrow, have a good one. Peace.